A lot of concern in British Columbia around the uptick in cases. Alberta, you heard just not long ago, the same story there, and earlier today in Ontario as well. The possibility of an even bigger jump in cases has a number of people across this country speculating about the possibility, the subsequent possibility, I should say, of another shutdown of the economy. The initial shutdown, of course, hurt so many businesses, but particular industries, because of the border closure, for example, were hit really hard. I'm joined now by representatives from three of those industries. Charlotte Bell is the president and CEO of the Tourism Association of Canada. Susie Grenell is the president and CEO of the Hotel Association of Canada. And Barbara Barrett is the executive director of the Frontier Duty Free Association. All three of them are in Ottawa, and they join me now. Hi there, great to meet you, and thank you for coming on the program. Charlotte, I'm going to start with you. Can you describe for our viewers, I mean, we can only guess given the fact that there are hardly any tourists allowed into the country, but you know, how much your industry has been impacted over what's happened in the last 6 months?
It's been impacted significantly. If you just look at international arrivals, since April, we're down by 98% every month. And as long as the borders remain closed, then it's basically, you know, very, very dire.
Susie, if there aren't people coming into the country or unable to travel around Canada to the same degree that we're used to, and my guess is there too that hotels are seeing a real decrease in the amount of people who are willing to stay in them, but then even able, I guess, when it comes to social distancing.
Yes, I mean, we saw most hotels in this country close down during the pandemic, and then we saw most also reopen, hoping that we were going to get a summer season. But the truth is that people just didn't really move around this summer. They stayed close to home. They went to cottages. Some of our resort hotels were busy, but again, as you say, operating at half capacity. And now we're rolling into the fall, which is where we're going to see, we're staring down the barrel really of 6 months or 8 months till the summer, really, before we start to see any form of meaningful recovery.
Barbara, we've spoken to you before on the program, especially about the businesses really, you know, right at the border and how they were hoping for some rent relief. What kind of an update can you provide for us on that?
Thanks, Vashi. So again, we're looking at about 6 months of essentially the stores being shut down. I think we're the hardest hit of the hardest hit. Our stores have seen a 95 to 100% decrease in sales. For the most part, some of our stores are tenants of the government, and the government did align themselves with the rent relief program and did offer a 75% reduction in rent. But they're closed because of the border. Our stores are closed to keep Canadians safe, and we support that. But the fact that there's any rent being charged at all to these stores is a little perplexing.
Okay, let me shift a little bit and ask you, because this is a political show, because a lot of people in government watch, if you were to appeal to them, Charlotte, I'll start with you. You know, if you were to identify the number one thing that you think they could do or should do to make a difference, and I know it's kind of different because provinces have some jurisdiction and they've been providing some aid packages, but the federal government is obviously, there's an ask of them too. What would you say to those politicians watching right now?
Look, I think the first and the most important thing that everyone is facing right now is liquidity issues. And we are working on that. But at the same time, we want to keep people employed. We want to keep these businesses open because eventually they're going to be operating again. And not all of them are completely shut down. There are some hotels that are still open and some attractions. And so from our point of view, extending the wage subsidy in a meaningful way, especially for those businesses that have been the hardest hit. Because you know what, Vashi, we are different. We're not like every other business. We don't have the luxury of doing e-commerce or providing services in other ways. You know, we're very. It's a face-to-face thing. It's very personal. And we need those businesses to be able to keep people employed. We want to keep Canadians employed. We don't want them to lose the training and the experience that they've gained. And we want to make sure that we get to the other end of the pandemic so those people can still remain employed and that they have businesses to employ them.
Susie, let me ask you about the extension or the possible extension of the wage subsidy. I had the employment minister on earlier in the show, Carla Qualtrough, and I asked her pretty specifically because I just want to make sure our viewers understand the wage subsidy initially was 75% of the wage up to a maximum amount that the government set. That continued to the end of August. Then they amended the program so that basically it kind of tapers off. And it depends on the industry you're in. Like there was a lot more sort of nuance to the program. There's been a tapering off as well of people who access it as a result of that. And so many have asked for a return to the 75%. I asked the minister about it. She said that, especially with the uptick in cases, if in fact more businesses have to close, she said that is something that they would consider. But there has not been any sort of specific move in that direction at this point. Susie, what kind of a difference would it make?
Well, we just did a survey of the hardest hit businesses in this country, and it closed on Monday. And 90% of them said that this wage subsidy is their critical lifeline. And what we need to see here is the program that is now going to unwind. We need to reverse that unwind, and we need to see it extended until the summer, until we are going to start to see meaningful recovery. What makes us different is the fact that we bring people together face to face. We are in the business of events and festivals and weddings and hockey tournaments, and we're all doing our part to keep people safe. And what that means, though, is that we can't operate. And the challenge with that wage subsidy program in this last iteration is that it doesn't take that into account. Now, I will give the government credit, though, because it is a very good program. They have made a number of iterations to it over time. They have listened to Canadians. They've listened to us. There was a top-up in this last round for hardest hit businesses. So they know that there are businesses out there that are hard hit. But the greatest flaw right now is that it winds down for all businesses, whether you can recover or whether you cannot recover at the same time.
Barbara, do you share the ask for the extent? Like, would it make a difference even though all the businesses that you're representing are closed?
Yeah, 100%. I echo my colleagues. And again, I do give credit to the government. They came out with this program very quickly, and it really did help our businesses keep their staff employed. But we're now getting to the point where they're still closed, they're not recovering, and the program is winding down. So what I'd really like to get across is how different we are and the urgency that we get, the urgency that's there. I mean, I've had calls from store owners who are putting their wages on their credit card just to get through. And that's just how urgent it is.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I appreciate all three of you making the time for our program tonight. Thanks to Charlotte Bell, Susie Granell, and Barbara Barrett. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.